Everyone to another episode of the Tip Tuesday podcast. We are so excited about tonight. We have the beautiful Miranda Chinell in the building with us today. So happy, so happy. Greetings, my sister. Greetings.
Hey, beautiful. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so happy that you have made your arrival. Tip Tuesday family, you are in for a treat tonight. Miranda Chinell is a force to be reckoned with in Chicago in the mental health and business community. She is an entrepreneur in her own right. She is the VP of operations and is responsible for a state-funded 24-hour crisis line for children and adults experiencing behavioral health and mental health crisis. And one of the other major things that she is passionate about is bridging the gap, especially in Black communities, between spiritual health and mental health. So she's out here as a voice and an advocate for Black women in the workplace and in business. We really wanted to focus on the workplace as well this week because we don't want anyone to feel like it's just you have to be in business, because even if you're in someone else's business, you're in business. So welcome, Miranda Chinell. Anything you want to add to that introduction, please feel free to introduce yourself.
No, ma'am. Let's just get into it. I know our time is limited. If people want to see me, I'm on social media. Like, we can do all of that stuff later.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in. So we were having a discussion because I got a lot of feedback regarding, like I said, we wanted to talk about women in the workplace because women are talking about the stress of just, I mean, I think we all have stress of just being at work, being in the workplace, being in business. But what are some of the challenges that you've seen in your field? And even because Miranda is a counselor, so she is coming to us not only from a woman in the workplace, we're going to get some expert advice tonight. She is a counselor, so she's going to give us some professional advice. So we wanted to bring on counselors, therapists. We want to bring professional advice, and we also want to bring real life experience. So just let us know some of the things you've been seeing with women in the workplace and what you're working with right now.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that shows up is that as women, we're expected to always show up. Especially we talk about being Black and brown women. There's an even higher standard of how we're supposed to show up in a space. And so there's this weight that we carry about the level of excellence that we have to have in every room that we set our feet in. And so that doesn't change when we go into the workplace. In fact, it gets turned up 3 or 4 notches because half the time we have to prove why we deserve to be in the room in the first place. And so we're already coming into situations trying to navigate and figure out how we're going to show up in this space or in that space. We're looking at microaggressions. We're looking at our own personal identities. We're looking at the standards that society is putting on us. We're looking at the fact that there's this expectation that when you get to work, you leave everything else at the door, but that's just impossible to do. When life is lifing, as my teenager said, you don't get to turn those things off.
Right.
And so as women, we carry all pieces of us into the workplace. We carry the fact that when we get home, we still got to be a mom. We got to be a wife. We got to be a sister. We got to be a daughter. We got to be a VP in this organization, or, I'm pursuing that organization, because we're always trying to display to the world how great we are. And a lot of times what we're trying to hide is the fact that we need a nap.
Oh, wow.
We're tired. We need somebody to pour back into us and the way that we pour out in all these spaces while trying to manage all of the things that are happening all the time. And it's just a lot of weight to carry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you said about being in the workplace and dealing with microaggressions. Can you talk about that a little more?
Listen,
I did some study on this in my graduate work, and I dealt with microaggressions and implicit biases a lot in the workplace. So for our sisters who are still in the office, in the warehouse, wherever they work, let's talk about that, because sometimes, and I think this is really good, sometimes things are happening to us. We know it doesn't feel right. We know it's something wrong with it, but we don't have the language to put to it.
Correct.
You know, we don't know to say, these are microaggressions. These are implicit biases. What are these things? So we can give some language to our audience members who may not know, so that if they are going through this, they can start to identify and articulate what they're feeling.
Absolutely. So being a Black woman in the workplace, first of all, you're already in a double minority position. You're a minority because you're a woman, and you're a minority because you're a Black woman.
Okay.
So there are some struggles that as women, like there's a feminist movement that happens. And as women, we unite and we talk about the fact of like, oh, well, we're paid less money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Black women are paid less money in comparison to their white counterparts.
Okay.
They're paid less money in comparison to Black men as well. So when we're looking at those comparisons, again, it's that double minority that's hitting us. But when we're talking about microaggressions, ask yourself this question to kind of figure out if this might be something you're experiencing. Can I bring my whole self into this space and feel safe? And if your answer is no, then there are probably some microaggressions that are happening in this space that causes you to not feel safe.
I love that.
You got to ask you, like, you know, in the creation of Tip Tuesday, you show up as your whole self.
Yes.
You have to tone yourself down.
Yes.
You don't have to tone pick, which is something
Yes.
that as Black women, we constantly have to do. Am I afforded to feel the emotion that I feel without being judged? How come I can't just be angry without being the angry Black woman? How come I can't just be frustrated without assuming that I'm aggressive? How come I can't just feel what I feel and allow that moment to be what it is without someone attacking my character? And so if you have to pick your tone based on the fact that if you say it this way, it's going to change the way they look at me, that means you can't bring your whole self into the room. Right. And that's probably a microaggression.
I love it.
Look at your hair. When we talk about professionalism of hair, right?
Yes.
If you got to choose between, I'm gonna wear this beauty supply store wig every day because it's bangs and it's straight, but you know, underneath there, you want to rock your curls, but you can't. Yeah. Those are microaggressions that we deal with. Oh, well, you can't wear locks because it's not professional. Who told you?
Yes.
Who told you that? If you have to tailor your clothing even, because maybe somebody else who is naturally shaped different can wear their maxi skirt to the office. The way that God made this body, I can't wear my maxi skirt to the office because all of a sudden now I'm inappropriately dressed over things that I can't control. Right. So again, as we are examining microaggressions, we're looking at, can you show up fully in the space?
I love that. I love that. And even with you saying, I've been seeing a lot of even newscasters lately who have been rocking their natural hair, their 4C, their 4B curls, their locks, their braids on air, because more women are stepping out to show up as they are and who they are. Now, I will say this. I think that when we think of the higher up the career ladder or business ladder we go, we begin to second guess ourselves a little more. And so it's, if I'm going to be in this boardroom or this space with this particular group or this particular dynamic of leadership, can I come in like this? And like you said, so Tip Tuesday, it's I am the creator and host. So I'm showing up as me. And even, you know, I'm a business owner. So getting on conference calls where I'm trying to secure a contract and this is what I got going on. And so being able, you know, let's talk about even being able to speak for ourselves and have a voice for ourselves and show up as ourselves, even if there's microaggressions in the workplace. And I'll give an example of this. I had a job once, and there was you know how there can be a department HR person that's not part of like the big HR of the organization. And I had just started this job, and it was one of those keyword self-identifying forms. And I went down. She was an older lady. She wasn't of the tribe. And I went down to finish up some paperwork, and she had completed my form for me. And she checked off white, non-Hispanic.
Oh.
We just talked about emotional intelligence and relational intelligence in the last show. Talk about controlling emotions. And I said, hey, who did this? Did you do this? One, it was inappropriate if you did it, and this is incorrect. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. I don't see color. I was raised not to see color. So
that's one of the biggest microaggressions
that
ever.
Is the biggest microaggression. And I could not believe, you guys, I actually experienced that. Instead of apologizing, instead of never doing that again, she came in and told me, I don't see color. And I told her right then, talk about you need to have a voice when it's time to have a voice. I'm telling you. And I said, well, I see color. I see my color every day when I'm in the mirror, and I love my color. And I identify, self-identify, family identify, community identify as Black. So give me a whole new form. And don't you ever in your life fill out a form that Tiffany Antoinette Hill has to sign her name to. Don't do it.
And don't minimize your mistake.
And don't minimize your mistake.
I don't see color. Like, own the fact that I messed up.
Own it. And
I probably looked at your resume and it said Tiffany A. Hale, and I assumed
yes,
he was going to walk through the door. Well, surprise.
Yes. And that's what I said, it's my last name. And yeah, but no, you got Sister Soldier that walked up in there. And so it was the wrong person to pull it with. And I was, I believe, in graduate school, maybe just started graduate school at this time. But I began to do work on this and began to study this because that upset me so bad. So I'm so glad that you brought up microaggressions. That's just one example. And like you said, not showing up as yourself. So how do we have a voice in the workplace as women who face, even with codes, like code switching and like you said, tone switching? How do we have a voice that is, because we do want to be professional, but what have we deemed as professional, not what someone else has told us?
Correct. And so I think that there's no set cookie cutter answer. And I don't want to set up the following to fail because it's going to be different depending on what room you walk in. And I think the truth is that even as we're unwrapping microaggressions and we're unwrapping the experience in the workplace, having a voice is one of those things where we learn how to tone it down. And we learn that while this voice is powerful, things that are powerful are often intimidating to other people.
Absolutely.
So what I have come to find is that a lot of times it's easier for me to be the silent Black woman than it is for me to be the angry Black woman.
Absolutely.
So we learn how to be quiet, and we learn how to grin and bear it. And we go back to our communities and our safety nets and our tribes, and we discuss this. But there's a change in the times, which is why DEI is coming to such a high forefront since 2020, where people are realizing that this has to stop. Because a lot of times we have to pick and choose of, if I say this, is it going to cost me my livelihood?
Absolutely.
I'm a single mom. So the coins that come direct deposit on salary have established a lifestyle for not just myself, but for my 2 children who depend on me in order to live. So we have to make decisions in those spaces to say, if this costs me my job, what then happens? Because that speaks a lot of times to why we say, I'm just not going to say anything. That speaks a lot of times. So my grandma was notorious when I was growing up for saying, Miranda, just keep the peace. Miranda,
Mm.
just keep the peace. And as
What we're
I've
often
grown and
told.
matured, I had to ask her, well, what happens when keeping the peace costs me my peace?
Yes,
At what
yes,
point do I make a
yes,
decision?
yes.
Because my peace is everything that I have. It has to be a priority, even in the workspace. And so what's coming to pass is that when we don't have a voice, when we can't feel safe in these situations, we create them. And now we see entrepreneurship, because if it's mine, you can't tell me. I mean, obviously you have a board of directors. There's always somebody that's managing, right? So
Right.
legalese aside, we create spaces where we can show up as our full selves. We create spaces where it's safe to say that you don't have to prove that you deserve your seat at the table every time you come in. We create spaces where
Absolutely.
you can rock locks this month and your natural hair next month and a 22-inch weave the month after that, if you want to, because that is the magic that we bring into a space. And it doesn't change the fact that we have earned the space that we've earned to be in this place. Who
Absolutely.
I am as an intellectual and what I bring to your business doesn't change depending on whether or not my curls are straight.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Doesn't change.
Absolutely. And I've been talking about this also with, I think a key component in this is effective communication.
Correct.
So not just being silent, but if we need to speak, how do I effectively speak in this environment? How do I effectively speak to these people? How do I accurately assess how I feel and then appropriately articulate that to the audience that I need to articulate it to.
Yeah.
Okay, so and I think when we're talking about communication, and we're not just talking about communication in business, in the workplace, because I know that you're an advocate for women who have to transition from the workplace then to home and dealing with that. I know that you work with, and so Miranda really works with women in that work-life balance space. She's such an advocate for that of, hitting your goals at work, but also making sure you're hitting your personal goals and your goals at home. And we have now, Miranda, we have people who are not only working in the workplace and going home as, wives, fiancés, partners, mothers, but also trying to start businesses. Let's talk to our women who are in the workplace, who are starting businesses and who are nurturing and taking care of a family and themselves. What are you telling women who are coming to see you for counsel in this area? Talk to me as a counselor first, and then talk to me you're someone with your own business. You are an executive level leader in your organization, and you're a mom. So talk to us from that point of view.
Yeah. So one of the key things that I always tell people is, or I ask is, what are you doing for self-care? And I think, because if you are not taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of anybody else in any place. We like to think that, we say all the time, like, oh, you can't pour from an empty cup. I believe that that's a lie. Like, I know how to scrape up and find a little leftover. If it was a cold Pepsi and now the glass doesn't sweat, so I'm gonna pour from this little piece or whatever I spilled over. Like, we have a way of, even when we're on E, being able to find whatever is in the reserve to give to somebody else. But the truth is that you have to take care of you.
Okay.
And we have to come out of the cliche pieces of self-care, like, well, I go and get my nails and toes done. Like,
I was going to say, talk about it.
No,
yes.
sis, that's not self-care, that's maintenance.
Yes,
so if you anything like me, like, that's regular maintenance. It's built into the budget. These are things that just have to be done. And on top of that, the nail shop is not always the most relaxing place, because I'm y'all gossiping. She on FaceTime and ain't got no AirPods. Like, I don't need all of that. Nothing about that is relaxing to me. But when we're looking at self-care, I'm asking you, how much are you sleeping?
Oh, good.
Like,
good.
Like, real talk.
Good.
Like, Like, what does your bed feel like? Because that shouldn't be
Good.
the cheapest thing in your house. Like, invest in the things where you are
I love that.
going to pour
Your
back into you.
bed shouldn't be the
Do you
cheapest
schedule
thing in
rest?
your house.
No, it should not. It should
That's
not.
good.
Like,
That's
you
good.
need a mattress that's not going to make your back hurt in the morning, because you
Absolutely.
can't possibly get the rest that you need, even if it's a little bit, right?
Mhm.
If it's uncomfortable, because you went the cheap route, because everybody was going to see the 55-inch TV in the living room and nobody was going to see the mattress in the bed.
Ooh.
But you feel the effects of the mattress, not the TV.
Teach
So,
us today.
what, how are you resting?
Mhm.
What are you eating? What are you putting into your body?
Absolutely.
Because, and listen, my inner fat girl is a beast, okay? Like, I'm the person where I get excited. The waiter always think I'm flirting. No, you just got my food and I'm excited to see you. But we have to be cognizant of what we put in. Are you running
Absolutely.
on 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day, Miranda? Because eventually that crash shows up somewhere else.
Yes.
And that crash may show up with your kids, because now you're coming down and they done left their shoes on the floor. And because you're exhausted, your fatigue comes out on the person who really didn't have anything to do with the fact that you were exhausted. He leave his shoes there every day. And now you done popped off. Didn't I tell you to get these shoes out the floor? I told you yesterday. And he's like, this the pair from today though. Like,
right.
Yesterday it was Nikes and today is flip-flops, but I'll get them. And so when we are not intentional about refueling, our breakdown happens on the people that we love the most. Our breakdown happens in the safe space. This is probably a conversation for a different season. But when the teacher says, oh, your child is so wonderful, they're so polite and blah, 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 and you looking at Stitch from Lilo and Stitch trying to figure out why he's tearing up stuff and spinning around like the Tasmanian devil, it's because he's safe in this space. So he can cut up at home. Whereas at school, he understands there are certain boundaries and things I can't do here.
That's
so
good.
We as adults do the same thing. When it has run out, it just has run out.
I love
so when
that.
Your husband says, baby, what we gonna eat tonight? And you go, I worked today just like you did. Ooh. Guess what? But you signed up to be a wife too. So maybe before you come in the house, you need to sit in the car for 20 minutes so that you can decompress whatever it is that you brought home with you, so that when you go into the house where people love you, you can be loved on.
I love that. When you go into the house where people love you, you can be loved on.
Yes.
Well, that gets into, what about mental health care as self-care? I mean, we have to, and I know everyone is talking about therapy as a buzzword, but I think like you are bringing some really real life daily examples home. And we have to stress, we have to have some type of therapeutic outlet, therapy, counseling, mental health, because we're going to do those things that you just said. We're going to have a rough day at work, come in and go crazy on the whole house if we have not replenished and refueled. And if we are doing this day after day, week after week, month after month, there's no way, even logically, we can think that you have to steal away from the norm and the routine to be refueled. There's no such thing as recharging in the place where you're giving out to. Correct. You have to go refuel, recharge, and give out again. So what are some suggestions that you have for therapeutic, services?
Listen, everybody needs to go to therapy. I'm gonna print it up on a shirt and it's gonna say you should go to therapy. I don't care if you have trauma in your background or not.
Okay.
Life in 2023 is traumatic.
Absolutely.
I believe that everybody ought to have a place where they can put it down with somebody who is non-biased and who cannot tell your secrets. The truth may be, I really wanted to run him over with my car. But you can't, if you tell the right girlfriend that, she gonna tell you, I'm gassing up and I'm taking the plates off, right?
I'm on my way.
Right.
I'm on my way.
What street he on? Like, we in there. Like, and if you tell the wrong person that, you gonna be on a fast. Like,
Right.
girl, you pray for this husband. Now we get, and the truth is
pray for that
like,
man.
I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we need people who are going to challenge us to say, well, what is it that you're doing? Like, what is it that's triggering you to pop off in this space? So that you can work your way backwards to, again, put in a game plan so that this isn't the pop-off space. So that that man or that child or whatever, your mother, if you're a caregiver, because we wear a lot of hats.
We wear a lot of hats. That's good that you've been brought up being a caregiver for parents. You know, sometimes when you get a certain age, you start getting to that age where you're doing more for your parents. You're being a caregiver. So you have kids that are still in the home and you're also being a caregiver. Come on, women, we are holding so many roles, but it goes back to, I know you're saying pop off at home, but sometimes it ends up popping off at work. And we end up getting stereotyped. We end up getting blackballed. We end up getting low performance reviews. We end up getting a reputation of, I was talking about this on the last show, where people who are good at their job, they're skilled, they're good workers, they come in, they do what they have to do, but they have been labeled as a person who can't communicate or manage their own emotions. And so no one wants to make them the team, even the team lead of a team, a supervisor, a manager, a director, whatever the ranks may go up to, because of lack of managing emotions and effective communication. So even to succeed, which is we're talking about succeeding in the workplace, succeeding in business, succeeding at home, we need to have an outlet. We need to be able to have a safe space where we don't have to defend. We need help, because sometimes you can be in a room or circle of different company and you feel like you have to defend and make all of these reasons and justifications why you need a break, why you have to go to that. No, I just need it because I need it.
Yeah.
I just need it because that's my life.
Correct. And some of that goes back to communication and understanding that communication is a two-part interaction.
Exactly.
So my intention and your perspective have to line up for the communication to work.
True.
If what I intend and what you perceive don't match, then somebody is getting labeled in some shape, form, or fashion.
Ooh,
be it me or you. Either you're labeling me,
the intention and the perspective have to match. Yeah.
For it to work. And that's in any space.
That's
in your relationship. That's with your children. That's in the workplace.
Yes.
If what you think, because we're not judged by our intentions. So a lot of times we say, well, I didn't mean it like that.
Yes.
Well, you may not have meant it like that, but the outcome is still X, Y, and Z. And so we're judged by the outcomes, not by the intentions.
Absolutely.
And the outcomes are based on the perspective of the person who's receiving what you putting out. And so again, sometimes we have to work our way backwards. If you are known as a person with the aggressive tone, maybe it's not that your tone is aggressive. Maybe it's that you are assertive, but the people that you are regularly communicating with are passive, which means that your normal assertive tone is intimidating to them. They are intimidated. You are not necessarily intimidating. So you need to be able to read the room so that you know how to show up in the space. Not so that you have to code switch, that you have to tone place. But when you can read a room, then you know, I need to tone it down a little bit. I know. Same thing with your girlfriends, right? We have different circles for different things.
Yes.
The people who I go to small group with at church are not the people that I go to margarita karaoke night with. But I need both groups of people because both groups refill me in different areas. And so in the workplace, I got to know when I walk into this room, I'm dealing with a lot of passive women who perhaps got their titles based on nepotism and I didn't. And so I'm used to having to prove that I deserve my seat at the table when really I don't. If I walk into a room where it's majority white men around the table and I already know that they're not going to acknowledge what I'm saying, And Bob, who's sitting next to me, is later going to repeat exactly what I said, and people are going to clap it up, then my response to that is, Bob, I think that's a great way of reframing what I said earlier. Thanks so much.
I love that. I love the professional play. I think that's a great way of reframing what I already said.
Yeah. Right? So figure out,
it.
you gotta learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
And it's always chess, not checkers.
Yes.
The truth is that as Black women, we've been taught how to master chess while everybody else is playing checkers. So you just got to be a step ahead all the time. You got to know what spaces you're walking into. You have to know, and we've been conditioned to do this since we were itty bitty, right? So it's already in you. So if you know, hey, every time I come into this room, they label me blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Turn it up on the other side. Or figure out
how you use turn it up on the other side. Yeah.
Figure out how you use that thing as a strength. If you know you're the assertive one, okay, well, I want to know what happened in this article. Me being me, I always volunteer to go first. That way, nobody can say what I was going to say, and then I'm trying to fish for something later. And it now opens the conversation for other people to have to give feedback on what I've already introduced to the group.
That's good. You are talking tonight.
Listen,
you are giving
consider the egos.
Good, practical wisdom for navigating in the workplace and in business. Because if we do not know how to start navigating, how to interact with other people and their flaws, their strengths, their weaknesses, and their flaws, somehow, some way, and somewhere along the line, we're going to be the ones that fail because we already have the ball set against us. And so I love what you're saying tonight. And so for anyone, for our men, because we know we have our fellas on, and I think that this is great, fellas, for you to know, for your wives, for your daughters, for your mothers who are in the workplace, who are in business, how to support them better, how to understand that what, we may be going through. I love what you were saying about the balance and the work-life balance. So what are some resources or some tools that, women can reach out for or utilize? What are some things you suggest?
I think in the balance of relationships, I think having conversations when you're not frustrated. Okay. So if you know he really made me mad when I just came through the door and he asked me what we was gonna eat, maybe that's not the time, right? Like maybe now in the midst of this highest level of pissed officity that I'm at, right? I didn't hit the ceiling. Maybe that's not the time. Like maybe the time is a different time to say, hey, you know what? The other day, I really felt like I had really had a rough day. So maybe before you ask me what we're gonna eat, you ask me how my day was. In a time where you're not already into it. And don't do it in the time where he's trying to watch March Madness. Like, don't walk in front of the game like, you know what? The other day, like, that's not the
get it out. Because I'm gonna get it out. No.
Let's be intentional the same way in the workplace, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's still a relationship that you want to work. So being intentional about when we address things and how we address things.
And same in the workplace.
Indeed.
Same in the workplace.
Knowing like, if my boss has offended me, maybe in this level of emotion, it's not the time for me to tell them that they were offensive. Because I'm going to tell you in that moment. And I'm not going to apologize because I meant what I said. I probably should have said it differently, but I meant what I said. That's probably not the time. But being able to take a step back and to be able to say, this is what I experienced. This is what happened. First of all, deal in facts and not in feelings.
Come on. Oh my. Now you are hitting a target. This is where I try to really drive home a point. We need, especially as Black women in the workplace, we need to know how to show up with facts and not emotions. You can be telling the truth, but your emotions, one, dilutes and water down the validity of what you're trying to convey, because emotions will take over. And so talk about that, conveying facts. Oh, not that we can't have emotion about it, but we need to think about it, process it, work through it to where we have our emotions under control and we can present facts in whatever situation we're in.
You can't argue with the fact.
Yeah.
I can come in here and say, my feelings was hurt. Well, I'm sorry your feelings were hurt.
Yeah.
Like you can dance all around what I feel, but you can't dance around the fact that 3 times in the meeting, I stated X, Y, and Z. And in the middle of me talking, you spoke over me.
Yes.
You can't debate that. You can't
can't debate. You filled out a form for and put my race on there on a self-identifying form. Exactly.
You can't debate that. It's the facts. The facts are that I have been in this position for X amount of years and I make X amount of money. Mm-hmm. This person was brought in last year. They were brought in at a rate that was higher than me. Mm. And when I do research, the average salary for this position is blah, 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 which is also higher than mine. Therefore, we need to discuss the pay differential.
All facts.
All facts. What they gonna say?
I deserve. I deserve.
Right. I did. And maybe you do.
And like maybe you do. But you have to present facts.
Correct. As a man, he don't want to hear you hurt my feelings because I was hungry too. Okay, and still, what we gonna eat? Like we bring the facts, and it's not that your feelings don't matter.
No, absolutely.
But sometimes you got to tuck them jokers in your pocket for a minute.
Absolutely.
Take them over there, and then show up as the fullest self that you can. Because you
we need everything around the board. We need relationship counseling, business counseling, mentor. What about men? Because we talk about mentorship. I think that people, even if you're starting off with some mentorship, like there has to be some type of guide or guidance or outlet that we have. But what are some resources for counseling, therapy, mental health that you would recommend to people, particularly women?
So I am. You got to feel it out. Depends on what you're looking for. You know what I mean? Like right now, a lot of Black women feel like they need to have another Black woman that's their therapist because that's how they feel seen. Personally, my therapist is a lily white girl named Dawn, and she gets the job done. And it's okay that she doesn't have all of the shared experiences that I have, because sometimes I need a non-biased opinion. I don't always need a, yeah, girl, you right.
Exactly.
Sometimes I need somebody to be like, well,
or a man.
What is this? Or a man
counselor before. And I know sometimes and men are less likely to sugarcoat with you. Sometimes it's like you said, we need that you a little bit way over on the other side. So I've seen the difference.
Like, it's not our job to give you the answer. Exactly. So if your therapist is telling you, well, go do blah, 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 they're a coach. They're not a therapist.
Exactly.
As a therapist, I was trained on how to listen. So when they like, you're not going to say nothing? No. I'm going to come back and ask you something else, because my goal is for you to understand it, not for me to tell you what you did.
Good. Now look at this. You have two opposite sides of the coin on this podcast today. You have the therapist and the coach. I love how you just broke that down. And so in that one sentence, she just told you what she does and what I do.
Listen, now you hire both of us and you're going to win.
Like, you hire both of us, you're going to win, because I'm going to give you those recommendations. So she's going to listen while you process.
I'm going to be like, well, did you do it?
Yeah.
Well, why
not? Well, Miranda, I so appreciate you. I so respect you. I know that we're going to be hearing more from you. Can you, before we get out of here, can you tell the Tip Tuesday family about your platform that you have that will actually be relaunching next month, and so that we can come on and hear more about the help and the resources and just the outlet that you're being and the blessing and the gift that you're being to people in the community, in our city, and even nationwide. So tell us about your platform.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So my platform is called Moments with Miranda, and I am coming back in April. And Moments with Miranda is a dope blend of, how you gonna call yourself dope? But it is.
Go ahead,
It is
girl. You
what
dope.
it
I'm
is.
telling you, I'm gonna affirm you.
So it's a dope blend of ministry, mentoring, and motivation.
Oh,
Because
love
it can be
it.
all things, and I don't know how to show up in a space without bringing all things. And
Mhm.
so I bring those things into the moment because I truly believe that it is a single moment that has the power to shift your entire life. And so
Absolutely.
sometimes it's those individual conversations that you have with somebody when you get up from the table, you like, you know what, I'm gonna do it, or
Oh,
I'm
that's
not
so
doing it no
true.
more,
That's so
or
true.
like I'm gonna launch it, or I'm gonna apply, or
That's so
I'm
true.
gonna leave, even if that's the answer.
Hmm.
And so I am intentional about creating safe spaces for people to show up as their full self and to be
Beautiful.
able to live through their story and to understand that literally it is moment to moment. Life happens in moments. It is the
Absolutely.
moments that shape our lives. It's
Absolutely.
not, we got all of these chapters, but it's the little details where you're like, it was this thing that stood out, or it was this person, or it was this smell, or it was this food, right? And
Absolutely.
so I've created this platform where we have conversations over coffee because the best conversations happen over
I
coffee.
love coffee.
And we just have real life experiences. And so those happen on Facebook Live, and
Okay,
the chats are live, and I talk to the people in real time, and I go
great.
back and forth with the folks in the comments.
Good.
But it's a beautiful blend of those three things because that's who I am as a person.
Well, I love it. I love how you've shown up here to the Tip Tuesday podcast and how you've shared and how you've poured out some really great nuggets. So don't worry, Tip Tuesday family. I'm going to have Miranda's information posted after this show. You'll be able to follow her, connect with her, watch her on Moments with Miranda when it relaunches. She is authentic, she is raw, she gets to the point, and she is passionate, about us. And so that's what I love about her. She is showing up in those spaces where it's hard to get language to explain ourselves. And she's saying, hey, this is what I think is going on. This is, how you need to process that and then come back and let me know if that works. And if not, let's go back to the drawing board. But she's very knowledgeable about things that happen in the workplace. So thank you so much. Like I said, you're a driving force in this city, in the mental health community. I'm telling you, her work is well known. And we are just blessed that you grace this platform. And we look forward to connecting with you more in the future. And if you have any questions, family, as always, you can reach me at admin at tiptuesday.net. It's been another great episode. This is episode 2 of the therapeutic series. So don't forget, we'll be coming on every week, every Tuesday in this series. We'll be launching. So we'll see you next Tuesday. God bless and have a great night. Tip Tuesday. Bye-bye, Miranda.
Bye-bye.